So today I'll be showing you how to wire and code for Piezo speaker on an Arduino using Arduino coding software. Here's what you're going to need. Firstly, you're going to need your Arduino and your breadboard. Next, you'll need your Piezo speaker, one with wires or nubs, preferably the nubs because they're easier to wire. Next, you'll need your button. Then you'll need a few resistors. The resistance on the resistors doesn't quite matter yet, but it will for future projects, so keep that in mind. Then you'll need wires. It doesn't matter how many, just get as many as you need. A USB cable to upload your code to your Arduino to make the circuit work. Next, you'll need a computer to write your code. So, to the coding. Alright, so coding, you'll start with your constants, as I clearly defined as int. So you start with your button pin. You'll set it to any of the pins on your digital side, and you'll continue with your speaker. You can name these anything you want, as long as you have the word pin at the end, because I find that to just really organize things. But you can name them anything, so if I wanted to, I can name it, Arduino, cookie, or whatever I wanted. So yeah, that's how you'll start, and this runs your whole code. Make sure to have those semicolons at the end, not colons. So now you're going to start with your pin mode. This is when you're going to be setting your speaker and your button to either be inputs or outputs. Now starting with your speaker is going to be an output because that's where you're going to give off energy. It's where it's going to come out, like an LED. You'll put that as an output because it's where energy is going. But for a button, you're going to put input because that's where you're using energy. It's not being used up. It's just flowing. It's continuing the current. So as you'll see, I'm putting that. I'll put output and input in all caps. It will not work if you don't have all caps. And again, using the semicolon. So now moving on to your actual code, which will make your speaker work. So you're going to go on and type button state. That's going to give it so when your button is at a certain time, you're going to tell it to do, basically. So you're going to write digital read. Make sure that R is capitalized, or again, it won't work. So as I do that, also another important part of this is to make sure all of your brackets are properly oriented. Then you're going to start with your if statement. So you're going to put button state equals high. So when you have it at high, it's going to mean when your button is on, your speaker is going to go on. So now you're going to go down, and you're going to type tone. Tone with a capital T, and then you'll put your pin, the frequency you want it, and then the duration of the noise. And then you'll write delay. This is how long it's going to stop in between. Then you're going to write your else statement, which you're going to need is more brackets, which would be the confusing part in future times. But you'll write else, and then you'll go on to write no tone, which means no sound. And then you'll go on to just write your pin, then delay, and there you go. You should have a working code. Alright, so now it's time to wire your Arduino. Now that you have it coded, it should work if you wire it correctly. And that's what I'm here to show you. So first you're going to need to know what end of your piezo speaker is your positive and your negative. So you can either look at the lengths, the positive being the longer one, the negative being the shorter one, or you can just look on the top. So you'll see either depending on how you're holding it, but how I'm holding it, right above, you see a tiny little plus mark. That stands for positive if you take math. So now that you know that, you can start actually wiring. So how you're going to do this is that you're going to see this little 5V, which stands for 5 volts. That'll be your power. So you'll take that power and run it into your breadboard. But you'll see another small little plus mark, which stands for power, as for everything else.
So then, right underneath of that 5 volt on your Arduino, you're going to see a little symbol that says GND. That stands for ground. So you can take that ground and put it in the little negative part, which of course stands for ground. So then, now that you have that situated, you can take your piezo, put it anywhere on the board. So let's say I want to put mine here. I'll put mine right here, right next to my wires, to make it quite easy. But it's not that simple. See, now in your code, you put your speaker pin as a constant on pin 13. So it's not going to go directly to your positive column on your breadboard. In fact, it's going to go directly from your Arduino. So you're going to take it, put your wire in at port 13 on the digital pin side, not the analog, but digital. And then you're going to put it in the same row as you did your positive side of your speaker. But on the negative side, you can put it directly to ground, because that's how you complete the circuit for a piezo. Next is the button. How I particularly like to orient my buttons is I find that gap in between my Arduino, and I'll put that button right in between the gap to give it a snug little fit. And then I'll take the row in which the top part of the left side of my button right now, you'll see the little metal pin coming out of it. I'll put my wire in the same row as that and put it directly to my power. But this is different than the speaker, because you need to take your negative side, run it to a resistor, then run it to your ground. So notice that I put a resistor in there. Again, it doesn't matter the charge of the resistor. Put it right to my ground. Then I'll take, since I wired that to pin 2 in my code, I'll take this side, the bottom diagonal to my power, and run it to port 2 on the digital side of my Arduino. Now that I have everything wired right, I should be able to run it and USB drive it up to my computer, and it'll make that noise, meaning you have a working speaker. It doesn't mean that the button will work. So then before you upload it, you need to make sure when you click that upload button, you need to make sure that you hit verify. And when you hit verify, it'll tell you if you've done anything wrong in your coding. Right now you'll see that I have everything correct. But there's also one more thing. You need to go to tools, alright? You go to tools and you'll hit port. When you see port, you'll get 2 options right here. You'll see Bluetooth and then USB. You want to do USB because we're running it with a USB, of course. If you don't do it with that, it won't work, and you'll sit here forever wondering why it won't work. So now that I know it's done, it's verified, it's good, I'm going to the port. Now I can hit upload. Then you see I hit upload. And now I should be able to push my button. And now it works. You have a working piezo circuit wired and coded to a bus.